All right, so one of you guys told me you should post about a male dominatrix instead because we posted the Russian dominatrix, and I was like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about this from the male's perspective on about how to dominate a woman. Let's see what he has to say from a
And in the
dominatrix point of
Dom,
view.
and today we're talking about 7 behaviors for a good dominant. Now, when I'm discussing behaviors, I'm moving beyond consent and moving beyond, doing research about what kinks you're going to get into and the processes for doing that. And the reason being is because I think somebody that wants to engage in BDSM should be doing that by default. In the scene, we have terms for that called top and bottom. The top is the one doing the act to somebody, the bottom is the one receiving the act. And I think both sides of those coins have to educate themselves about BDSM so that they're doing it in a safe, sane, and consensual way. However, dominance and submission are a little different. You can think about it like cooking. You can make chicken breast and you can boil chicken breast like a bodybuilder, and it can be pretty bland, but technically you're getting all of the nutrition. That's what I think being a top and bottom would be about. However, dominance and submission are kind of like adding spices to that, making a culinary experience for what you're about to eat. Dominance and submission is the intention behind whatever act you're doing as a top or bottom. So today, as we're thinking about the behaviors of a good dominant, really think about these as the mindsets or the intentions behind the actions. I'm going to scroll through the article that I had written on my website
Damn,
so
this
that
guy's
you can
writing
see what I'm
shit.
talking about.
He's
However, you
writing.
can go and read this article in further depth to get a little more explanation about each one of these behaviors. So you can see the first one is leadership. I think this is the core of being a dominant.
Yeah, totally.
And when I speak of leadership, I mean it sort of in the captain and first mate dynamic, where the captain of the ship knows exactly what's going on in the entire ship. He's spoken to all of his crew members.
Mm-hmm.
He knows the vision for where he's going, but he also knows the goals of all the members on the ship. And all the members on the ship are trusting the captain to get them there. They know that the captain has the skills and has the interests of each one of the crewmen at the heart of the captain. I think dominance and submission are the same way.
Honestly, I think the most important skill, if you're ugly, is to develop leadership skills. I mean, that will make up so many physical flaws if you're a good leader. Because eventually, if you're a good leader, you're gonna build a group eventually, right? You're gonna have people who follow you. And to be a good leader, you just gotta want something. Like you gotta want people to see your point of view or do an activity together or lead people to a certain location or to guide them with an experience. But the point is that it has to be an expression of something that you like so that your leadership is charismatic, right? You can't be doing something you don't enjoy. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, like I always talk about, I have an art group and a meditation group, right? None of them are cults. I always tell people that. Um, but it's because I enjoy doing those things. And guess what? I come up with activities because the group is here and I tell them, okay, let's draw this. And then when you're done with that, you add on to that drawing. And we do like collaboration drawings for like 2 hours. And it's really fun with the meditation things. I teach them. And so those things eventually, like I don't do it to get girls, to be honest with you. I do it because I don't like being alone. You know what I'm saying? I don't like drawing alone. I like meditating alone, but I also like to meditate with people. So bringing those things together, eventually somebody's gonna like you. I mean, somebody's gonna pay attention to you.
A submissive is giving over their power because they believe the dominant actually has their best interests in mind. And it's the dominant's job to kind of create a vision for where they're going. Now, if you're in like a full 100% DS dynamic, that could be your entire life together. The dominant is taking the vision for where you're headed in life and as a couple.
Yes,
But it
such
could
as
be as simple
BDSM.
as in the scene, what is the goal of the dominant? What's the goal of the submissive? And how can we structure that to get
Situational
there?
dominance.
And just like any good leader, if the Dom is only serving what he wants, then he becomes a tyrant, in which some cases that could be fun, but I don't think for the entire relationship, at least that's not how I run mine. And if they're, the next is responsibility. Obviously, the Spider-Man line comes to mind here. With great power comes great responsibility. The only reason that the submissive is giving over power is because they believe that you're going to take responsibility for them. You're going to care for them, you're going to help them reach their goals, and hopefully you're going to give them a pretty freaking good time. The other reason that this is important is it begins to create trust. And that's the only time that the submissive actually gets to sink into that submissive mindset, that they can let go of the
Damn, it's almost like method acting. Like they're looking for mental stimulation. You know, I don't understand BDSM, to be honest with you. I don't I never done it. I don't like it. I think I'm too selfish for that, to be quite honest with you. Um, and like that's like it's like a dance, you know. It's not what you think it is. Like when I used to think about it, I thought about it from like, oh, now I'm dominating the girls, right? But no, it's a dance. And if you think about it from the way I used to think about it, the women are gonna resent you. They're gonna call you selfish, and they're gonna go to somebody else.
Worry and thinking about themselves and having to worry about what's going on because they know somebody else is responsible for that. That's really one of the gifts that the dominant gives the submissive. All right, behavior number 3 is creating order or creating structure. When we're role playing with dominance and submission, we're kind of creating this container to allow this world to happen. Not always something that we get to do out in the real world. So we kind of have to create boundaries, rules, and structures around that so that we can have the most fun. It's sort of like letting kids play out at a park or at some playground. There's a fence, a structure, an area where you're allowed to play. And within that, you can do whatever you want or, whatever you've agreed upon. It's the same thing in the DS dynamic. All right, the next one is communication. This is the one that you're going to hear all the time. Communication is the bread and
Yeah,
butter
you
of
don't want to catch case, especially
these
nowadays.
DS dynamics. Honestly, they're the bread and butter of a good, healthy relationship. And the reason that communication is important is it creates clarity. I am not in your head. You're not in my head.
This is why if you do escorts, a lot of the times you that muscle of communication with the other person gets weak because think about it, when you're with a girl, you're observing, you're like, all right, does she like this or no, like you're taking feedback. When you pay for it, you, you're not taking feedback. Like I fuck that feedback, right? Like you get what I'm saying. So it's a little different, and that's why this is. I don't think you could be selfish and be a good dom. Like I really don't think so because the women, like I said earlier, they're gonna find you to be a turn off because it's all about you, and they're in it for not just you but also for themselves.
Can't read each other's minds yet. Maybe when Elon Musk gets done with Neuralink, we can just connect those and transmit stuff and we never have to have the hard, dirty conversations. However, those are the most fun, so I don't know why we'd want to get rid of them. But communication is about creating clarity. Clarity in what we want and clarity in what we don't want. Right, the next one is awareness. And this is not one that you're actually going to see a whole lot in people describing, what a good dominant is or what the good behaviors or traits or mindsets of a good dominant are. And awareness is actually something that I bring from Tantra into practicing dominance. And the reason I think it's important for a dominant to be aware not only of themselves, but of their submissive is because they can actually understand more about how the submissive is receiving some of the dominant acts. The example I use here in this article is, say you're doing impact play and you're swatting your submissive away. They're enjoying it. They're enjoying it. And then you do a swat and they start flinching a little bit. And you go to another swat and you see their body even reacting a little more than it normally is. If you're not aware of the situation, you might miss those and you might be going over the line that your submissive can handle, or maybe even a boundary that your submissive has, but your submissive has not spoken up about it.
That's very interesting right there. That's very interesting. I mean, that's pretty much using your primal instincts and of observing bodily behavior. Yeah, I could totally see how this can bring people together. I could totally agree with that.
Right. The next one is educating and creating growth for you and your submissive. Now, not every dominant takes on the teacher or mentor or educator role, but I often do. In my vanilla life, I'm an educator, and it's just not something that gets turned off. And it's something that I thoroughly enjoy in a dynamic, is showing my submissive something new or helping them grow in some way. I always like to leave people better off than I found them. And so educating is one way to do that. And this could be as simple as showing them new techniques, showing them new kinks, showing them a way to do something. But it could also be educating that person about themselves, helping them gain more self-awareness, helping them understand what their likes and dislikes are, where their boundaries are. I also like helping my submissive to experiment, kind of push the boundaries for them so that they can grow as a person. Not pushing their boundaries is something that they don't want to do, but helping them to develop themselves. I spend a lot of time learning about myself, educating myself. So I like to pass that along, but I also expect it of my submissives. That's something that I want in my dynamics. Right. The last one is love, or creating the intention. And a lot of times in BDSM, you're going to hear what's the difference between abuse and BDSM play, and it's consent. I also think love should be in there as well.
Yeah, totally.
When you're committing one of these acts, when you're doing something in BDSM, are you doing it because you love the person, or are you doing it for some other reason?
Yeah.
Even, a heavy spank could be done with love behind it. You're doing it because you care about that person. You're doing it.
Yeah, you can't do this and be emotionally distant like that guy from from you know that book, right? I mean, possibly it could be a kink, right? Just the fact that I'm cold with it. Look, man, there's always a woman for every type of guy. You know, as long as you have some aura, right? In terms of having that capacity to of qualities about you that makes women overlook your looks, you know, like leadership, humor, power. You have a pretty good archetype, um, or you're pre-selected or appear to be pre-selected. All of those things is aura that could potentially help you if you're not stereotypically attractive, right? And yeah, I mean, with this guy makes a lot of sense. I mean, he's talking about the healthy kind. I was expecting like some evil shit, but yeah, I think I'm just jaded. Anyway, let me know what you guys think.